What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're taking a look at Path of Exile 2 here on the Steam Deck. This will eventually be free to play, but I did pay the $30 to jump in to early access here, and I'm really enjoying my time with the game, and it runs really well here on the Steam Deck and really all the handhelds, but it looks nice here on my OLED as well. And I want to go through and talk about some of the settings here that I'm using off the bat before we get too deep into the game, and some options here. So Vulkan is here by default on the Steam Deck apparently, and it does run just fine, and you can use FSR. But I do recommend using DX12 and maybe even XeSS, which we're going to take a look at as well. But I do have 800p FSR here. We don't have any dynamic resolution on. That does make the game look pretty blurry, so I recommend not using that. FSR balance will be fine here with Vulkan. Medium on my texture quality. You can go to high, but I did gain a couple of FPS this way. Switch off the global illumination, as that was hurting my FPS, my performance a little bit farther in, so just left shadows. Low on shadow quality, and I left high on everything else there, but you could gain some more by adjusting those, which I'll be playing around with. Still have triple buffering on here and dynamic calling on, which is supposed to help with some of the performance when you have a bunch of stuff happening on screen, so that's worth giving a shot. And no graph here on performance metrics. So starting there, we jump into the game, and this is your first little social hub. I'm not really far in. I've put about 2 hours, 3 hours into the game, and played a lot of it here on the Steam Deck so far, where it's running pretty decently, typically staying well over 30 FPS, and at times in the 40s and 50s, and in certain dungeons maybe 60 and above. But the nice thing here is the game's really smooth. There's no frame time issues I've run into, or crashes or stutters or anything. It's just a pretty smooth experience either way. There are areas that do dip below 40, so a 40 FPS cap doesn't necessarily work all the time, but even when we get a lot of action on screen, at least in these early areas, the FPS and performance for the most part holds up pretty well here. And we are still on Vulkan here with the FSR balanced in those custom settings. Again, you could turn a couple of those high settings that are default down a little bit more, gain some, but I haven't found any huge gains yet by doing that. I think that the game looks pretty good here, but as I spend more time with this and get further in and get to the larger social areas and stuff like that, I'll definitely tweak more settings, play around with things, and we'll do updated performance videos. But just as a kind of release and early access quick look at this, I think it gives us a good idea of the performance, how well it's running here on deck, and if you might want to go ahead and jump in or wait for when it's free to play. But I'll definitely be getting much farther into this game, as this is my style of game to play, and I'm happy to see it running so well on the Steam Deck here, especially my OLED, where this looks really nice here in person. Alright, so that was Vulkan and a quick look at some of that performance. Let's switch over to the DX12 here, where we do get a bit more performance out of the game. I'm not saying it's a lot, and in some areas it's very similar to Vulkan, but I did feel like I could get a little more out of it, and we are going to be using the XeSS, so we're still unbalanced here. Let's go ahead and we can now activate Intel's XeSS, which does oftentimes give a bit better image quality. Not always, but it often does here, and I wanted to try it out. I was able to leave that on quality, so that's kind of what I recommend here. Not a huge difference in performance between balance and quality, so I kind of left that alone here. So yeah, this also runs really well. I didn't run into any major hiccups or stutters or problems, so if you're going to run Vulkan or DX12, I don't think you're going to have any problems. I do recommend using FSR quality or balanced if you're using Vulkan, and XeSS quality or balanced, maybe even performance if you really need to in certain areas, if you're running on DX12 here. But of course, I'm going to continue to play the game a lot longer, get farther in, mess around with some more of the settings, and I'm sure we're going to get some patches as well and different updates and things like that. But it doesn't look like a poorly optimized game in any way. It's just a little difficult to run here and there, but pretty smooth. I did run into some spots here as I got farther in that we did get 29 FPS. It's the only time so far I've gone under 30, so that's just something to keep in mind there. And again, might be something to adjust a couple of more settings or mess around with, but it did recover pretty quickly, and it's the only time it happened, so that's just something to keep in mind there. And I know a lot of you might, for a game like this, even opt to just lock to 30 FPS, which would be fine too, and for the most part you probably wouldn't see much change or dip or anything like that. So anyways, for now, this is Path of Exile 2 running on the Steam Deck. Again, the longer this game is out, I'll be playing through it, checking out patches, doing future videos on their performance, especially if we get any major changes here. So anyways, guys, thanks a lot for coming and check out the video. As always, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.